Welcome to the Tuck Shop Podcast. You found my office. Where the hell have you been?
Undisclosed location.
Well, you had vacation, then we had some timing, and I had some
I
issues.
said location, not vacation.
Well, you had vacation.
Undisclosed.
Actually, yeah, you didn't really do much on the
I
vacation.
think an undisclosed vacation is like, what's that called? Paid time, administrative time off. Undisclosed vacation, or is better known. It wasn't that. Trust me. Because they didn't pay me.
Welcome back, David.
Hey, it's good to be back, Matt. It's good to be back.
We're cranking through the summer.
Yeah, and a summer it has been.
For some reason, the heat's on in Krebs in my office.
I was just going to say, it's been a rather cool summer other than this building.
Other than this building.
Yeah.
But, what can you do?
You know.
So we had a couple of good open houses, though, since
Yeah.
you've been on the show, and open houses and orientations.
Academic
planning days.
So here's, and I think I might have mentioned this before. It seems to me that what we're trending. So again, I think, and don't quote me on the stats because I may be off by a couple here, a couple there, but I think we're in the neighborhood of 600 incoming freshmen.
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah, give or take, close to what we were last year. But that's not the point. The point is that both this year and last year, we had identified or self-identified this year about 60 parents that the next generation. These are students that are already committed to come here. So we know in the fall there'll be out of that 660 that have said, "Hey, my mom or dad or both were parents here." But the interesting thing is we're seeing about 10%.
That number's about
our
10%.
incoming freshmen the last 2 years, at least since we've been kind of tracking, 10% is are bringing their sons or daughters back that are not just coming to look at the place; they're committed to go here.
Yeah.
So I think I find it for some reason kind of interesting.
It's a fun situation to talk to them and see and you kind of can tell. Because we can kind of see what years those are now, somewhere like anywhere between like 98 and 01, 02 graduates at this point are bringing their kids through a little bit later maybe.
And if you do the math, which I'm not really good at, it makes sense.
Yeah.
You've got a son or daughter that's 18, 19 years old. That's college age. And I think it's probably, and I try to do the math in my head, which just could take us someplace we don't want to go. I would be curious to see when this trend started, because think about it. So again, this is where it's going to get a little bit familiar territory.
Oh,
so you graduated in first year graduation.
Yeah.
So what, 74? 74.
Yeah.
So do the math. By 74, if you graduated by 74, you'd have a college-ready, college age.
Yeah. So 74, you graduated the day after you gave birth. So 18 years later, 18 years later
is what?
Is 88.
So in 1980,
no, 92.
Okay.
It would be 92.
Yeah. So in 1992, and it's
84 would be 10, and then another 8 would be 892.
Okay, so let's just say 1992, and I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting, and I don't know how we would track this because we just weren't I wouldn't say we weren't as data driven. We just weren't as data accessible as
Correct.
we are now.
It's multiple systems layered upon
right.
each
So you
other
can
and stuff,
but I'd be interesting to see when we started to see this trend. And again, I think 10% of an incoming class is a pretty good percentage.
Yeah.
But I would wonder. My point is, like, at what point did we start to see that?
Is that 10% consistent year to year, or is it trending up?
Or the 80s? Let's say that 80.
Yeah.
What did you say? 90.
92.
92 might have been the first year you'd be able to see.
Yeah.
That
Let's
happen.
go back 30 years from today. Is that
1990
trend?
In 1992, how many freshmen came in that their parents actually went to school?
Yeah.
Or did we start to see it in 2000? Did we start to see it?
I'd also be curious to see if the trend has gone up as more people opt to not participate in higher education.
Yeah,
and
a lot of questions.
Potentially more people are
looking
looking to. There's been, because like anything else, there's good years, there's bad years in any business and any cycle. Right. So, how many people were like, "Oh, you should go to where I went." "Oh, no, I'm not going to go to little UPJ.
Yeah.
I got, it's a different time. It's a different kind of thing. I want to go to a big school. I want to go to Notre Dame or something. I want a team that is on broadcast television on Saturdays in the fall.
Correct.
But sometimes that cyclically changes to, I don't want a big school.
Right.
I want little schools. I want closer to home.
And you're right. I mean, to do that deep data dive, think about it. There was a point where, around that, I guess, a little later around that same time, there was a building boom here.
Yeah.
Where new facilities, remodels. So you wonder, there's so many different layers here that you could just sit all afternoon and go down the rabbit hole.
Through 2000, we had a bunch of...
It's kind of quaint, but oh my goodness, they now have the Living Learning Center. They now have Willow after that. They now have the Pasquarella. They have the Wellness Center. It really, the campus took a transformation in the 90s there where did it end up becoming a Notre Dame? Maybe not, but a lot of things were added. So I would be interested, I guess, say this. I would be interested not in the numbers, but in the percentage.
I think that might be a question of the week for you.
Yeah, how would you phrase it, though?
I don't know. We'll have to think about it.
Yeah, because it's really and I'll tell you what, here's the logical part of this whole thing. So with the centennial coming up next year, 2027, we've started to see these trends, or at least we're starting to identify these families that are starting to send not only one child, but two children, or so on and so forth. I don't know what year we'll get to the point, oh my God, that's another, 20 years from now that would start to see the next generation of kids. Right?
Well, no, it'd be from the kids who graduated in May. They're in 2020, who graduated in 2026 would be coming in 2040, what?
Yeah, 20. I don't know, but
44.
Anyhow, okay, so the reason I bring it up, and this isn't where the map was taking me to begin with, but now we're gonna what's the thing that the car says? Rerouting.
Yeah.
Rerouting. Make a left. So next year, 2027, one of the centennial events we have on the drawing board right now is a family reunion. Tentatively looking at something, not this homecoming, not the one coming up, maybe around homecoming next year, where we would invite families that are UPJ families, because I think we may start to answer that question of, here's somebody from 1992 that brought their son and daughter, or 2000. I mean, it would be interesting because you're right. There's a lot there. Like, was it the building boom? Was it the change in education? Was it the college trends? What was it? But I guess, bottom line is it's good to see that. I mean, again, I still think 10% is a very good percentage of, because the bottom line comes down to it.
Yeah.
Mom and dad could have went to school here. That's great. But mom and dad going to school here isn't going to get you the education, the degree, and the job you want. So there's got to be something more said for the quality education here. But point is,
well, no, because when you really think about it, let's because I brought the calculator. So if you do, and by the way, we're only looking at the 4-year side of things.
There
could be a lot of people who did are alum for the 2. Yeah, so those
sure.
count. I'm just saying we're just talking the 4.
Because there's got to be a lot of those too.
Correct.
They did the
there's
2
a
years
lot.
and went to Oakland.
But if you did 74,
1927,
and then 18 years is 92.
Okay, so we got that.
So that's one
very
generation.
Good. Yeah, very good.
18 years, 2010.
Wow.
2 generations, 18 years, 2028. So the year after could be 72, the 70s, the 80s, 90s, 2010, 2018, 2028, 5. So 5 generations. You could have people out there that are 5 generations
you could,
deep
even if
on
it was one. Even if it was
for the 4-year program, let alone all the people that are probably more than that if you count, when we will go back and would look at the 2-year attendance.
Yeah, but let's hope. Let's just hope for a very good family reunion event in 2027. So keep an eye out for that. Because it's, again, the people that have identified parents, sons, daughters have been self-identified.
Yeah.
It's kind of a crapshoot to go into the database and say, okay, let me invite everybody named Cernell and hope they're related, or everybody named Jones. Cernell might be a little bit easier.
Yeah, it's a little easier. There's only 3 of
Jones
us.
And hope like, hey, you guys all related in some way, or not. But keep an eye out for that.
Yeah.
Interesting fact. Got to figure out a way to put that into a fun fact.
or at least a question,
or just a question,
because that could get us some identify some people.
How do we?
We'll think about that one. Good. The other thing I wanted to take a quick note on before we get to our interview today is, again, last week was we were off. I had some stuff. I don't want to. That's not my story alone to share. But for this, how this show goes, there was actually a little bit of news that happened last Monday. I don't know if you know the name, David, because it's more of a technical thing than anything else. But there was a tech pundit and writer for a long time, John C. Dvorak, died. John did a podcast that I started listening to back. Basically, that's the reason that we knew how to do this podcast, was because their podcast I learned from listening and put the pieces together.
Well, maybe we should represent and have a moment of silence.
No, it's kind of like the coaching tree in a lot of ways. Because that was he was on a bunch of different stuff from a technical standpoint, and then had a show where him and you may remember Adam Curry from MTV.
Yeah, okay.
They did
MTV,
media.
that's my generation.
Such. They did media deconstruction and stuff. But during COVID, it was like you're just looking for any type of media to keep your because it's so boring. And they were producing shows and understanding and learning and stuff. So John died last Monday. John Dvorak. So kind of in our coaching tree, but that's how I started doing podcasting, was listening to and understanding what those guys were doing and making it sound good and putting it together and getting a schedule and doing the stuff that we know. Added to the fact that, and this is kind of the secret behind this, because this isn't the only show and I do, and it's certainly not the first show we've done. Podcasting was technically media during COVID, so you didn't have any restrictions.
Can't wait to say that again.
Under Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Just like newspapers and television.
Makes sense.
Yes, of course.
It's probably a good idea.
Which is why I started podcasting, so I didn't have to deal with any of the stuff because then I was press.
Right. But you don't have to be licensed to do a podcast.
No, not at all. That's what was the loophole. But it kind of became that. So in a lot of ways, that's why we would be able to do what we do with this show, was because of that history.
Not to go down a different whole tangent, but man, you look back and COVID's been, I guess we got through the COVID era. What are we at? 3 years, 4 years?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it depends. I don't know when the official last day of COVID was. Or I remember the first
For
day.
Some people, there isn't one.
For
other people, they'd say.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, but nonetheless, if you could put into that era or that time frame, that 2 years, I guess is a safe way to say it. And again, it's an obvious, observation, just how much came out or how much was refined or defined. Or, I'd watched a documentary, I think I mentioned at one point, and somebody had the, I don't know if it was the foresight or what, but they filmed locations all over the world during the COVID shutdown.
Oh, yeah.
And it was interesting. There was Mount Kilimanjaro could now be seen from Tetra Firma, 2 miles away, which could not be seen because of the smog. Just different major cities throughout the world. And I don't remember the name of the documentary, but it kind of showed the effects of how COVID changed the environment. But you almost have to wonder, you could do podcast upon podcast upon podcast upon podcast of things that COVID changed.
Very much so.
Podcasting had to be one of them, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. No, that was a big one. But that kind of got me started, so I wanted to take a minute because that kind of led us to be able to do this show. And I know a lot of people like it, so kind of just have that was thinking about that amongst everything else that was going on last week that I had to deal with.
If you don't like it, don't listen. You're probably not listening.
Not 14 minutes in, if they still listen. Right. They made it past your rerouting joke. You guys are the diehards. And we're going to reward you with the continuation of our summer series today. We're going to cut over to our interview we sat a couple months ago now with Rich Ragan.
That's a good one.
Very good interview talking about his time here in basketball and all kind of cool stuff. So we're going to put that here at the end of it and then talk to you next week we only have like 1 or 2 more of these summer series to go, and then we're going to be back with full live episodes with new interviews and everything.
We've already started putting some of those, as they say, in the can.
Yes, we have some good one. Actually, we got a really good one coming in Wednesday to sit down and record with us. So I'm excited about that. Part of my documenting history of the campus thing. that is becoming a passion for me now. But I think that's real cool. But we'll be back doing the full episodes the 26th of August. It'll be the Wednesday the term starts.
Yeah.
So we'll be back. But until then, we'll have a couple more of our summer series, and it's good to have David back.
It's good to be back.
I do want to thank Sarah and Julie for filling in. But that was fun. So let's go listen to our interview with Rich Ragan. Rich Ragan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. Looking forward to having a nice discussion with you guys.
Oh, it's fantastic. You're coming to us from Detroit, right?
I'm in Detroit. I'm in my office in Detroit. I work for the Dow Corporation, formerly known as American Axle and Manufacturing. We just went through a name change last week, in fact.
Oh,
2
wow.
weeks ago, rather. We acquired a large company called GKN, which is owned by the Dowlais Group, which was a $6 billion company. And so now we're a $12 billion company. We doubled the size and changed our name. So now it's the Dow Corporation, DAUCH.
Boy, I felt I got on the right side of bed and got to work on time. And then you hear Rich talk and you're like,
Oh, yeah. No, you and I struggled to get here today. And Rich, just double our valuation to $6 billion.
I tell you, the integration work that goes along with that is a ton of work. That's what we're into right now.
Oh, I had different people, different cultures, different corporate cultures, different systems. Just getting emails to work right.
We're adding 25,000 associates to our email chain, so to speak, and we added. Now we have 166 plants in 28 countries, and I got to get out, and I run 5 groups here at American Axle as their vice president, and I've got to get out and launch all these programs to 103 new plants. So that's a lot of work in a lot of different countries.
Well, I'm very honored that the first thing you decide to do with all that work on your plate is talk to us.
And I wondered why
Absolutely.
it took some schedule juggling to get Rich on the show.
Yeah, but no, it worked out. It worked out well.
Right.
Rich, let's go back to, and typically what we'd start with, but this is kind of cool, and we'll loop back around to modern day. What's your UPJ story? How did you start here?
Well, I played basketball there, of course, and I was recruited in high school, and I had a lot of opportunities to go play a lot of different places. And Division I, Division II was a lot different back in those days because there's 150 Division I schools and 350 Division II schools, and it didn't really matter because we were an independent, and half of our schedule was against the smaller Division I schools now, like St. Francis and Army and UNC at Charlotte and places like that. But I had a lot of opportunity, and I was coming off the floor of the Dapper Dan Roundball Classic practice, and there was a coach there by the name of Roy Danforth. He was out of Syracuse, and he was saying, Rich, he said, and I had met him previously, and beside him was standing Dave Campbell, who was just a first-year coach at Johnstown, and he came from Duke University, and he introduced me to Dave Campbell, who was our coach, Mike, who recruited me. And he says, this guy's a shooter, to Coach Campbell. And Coach, the difference between a good shooter and a great shooter? And I'm standing there just watching, and he said, the good shooter will make 2 or 3, miss 3 or 4 in a row, make 4 or 5 in a row again. He says, the great shooter is going to make 10 in a row, miss 1 and hit another 10 in a row. He says, this guy's a great shooter. You need to get him. So that started our conversation. And then one thing led to another, and I looked at all the places that I had opportunities to go, all the way up from Washington State in the Pac-8 at that time. Now it's the Pac-10. George Raveling was the coach there and was a friend of my father's, to places on the East Coast. So it was literally, honestly, my dad put all these offers that I had on our kitchen table and our dining room table. And he said, okay, how far away from home do you want to go? And just slid the ones off the table when I said, I don't want to go east or west of the Mississippi, so that you can have a chance to, mom have a chance to watch me play. So that slid off the table. Then we said, what do you want to major in? I said, well, Dad, you're an engineer. I'll be an engineer. Okay, all these other schools that don't have engineering slide off the table. So what it came down to was the personality of the coaches. And Coach Campbell came to my house with assistant coach Ferguson and John Ferguson, and he said, hey, Stud, he called everybody Stud. He said, hey, Stud, you come and play for me at Pitt Johnstown. I'm building a dynasty. He says, you'll play every single minute of every single game. And I said, really? Like that. I said, that sounds like a pretty good opportunity. And he mentioned some players that he had already recruited and signed, Chubby Wells, and I knew him, played against him, and Michael Black and Chuck Brazil. These are all names that I knew from state of Pennsylvania, that you hear about. And I said, "You signed those guys? Those are like high school All-Americans like myself." I said, "Wow, that's pretty good." He says, "I'm building a dynasty." He says, "We're going to be a force to reckon with here in a small pit, Johnstown." So I came up to the campus, looked around, and I said, "This is a nice place." And it was perfect for what I wanted out of it, and that's what I did. So that's how I got there.
What time frame, for people who may not be familiar with everything and the history and so forth, what years are we talking about?
1974 to 1978. You're way before you were born, Matt.
Not that far. I just look real good. David was already.
Me, I was around a bit.
Yeah, Dave, I know. You and I had that discussion before.
So you were actually up in the Richland campus full time when you never were at the Johnstown downtown. It's always been up here and at that point the gym would have been in the student union.
Student union, and then we built the sports center that it's in right now, and I played in there as well.
Now, Rich, you mentioned a lot of names there. They weren't just names; they're Hall of Famers here at Pitt Johnstown. As
they're
yourself.
Hall of Famers.
Yeah, so this wasn't. When you start to think, the company.
It's an amazing list of people.
It is, and we look back on it. Michael Black, Moon Black, was our point guard, and he was a hell of a player, and he and I are still close. I'm still close with all my teammates, actually, Donnie Elzer and Chuck Brazil, those guys. I talk to them quite frequently, actually. I talked to Moon the other night. He called me Saturday afternoon. He said, "Rich, how you doing?" I said, "Hey, Moon, I haven't talked to you in a while. How you been?" He said, "I was watching the game with my buddies here at my house." And he said, "This guy hit 3 threes in a row." He said, "Damn, that guy shoots like Rich Ragan used to." And he said, "I got to give him a call." So, I mean, there's things that remind us of things. And he just gave me a call at the Clear Blue, and we talked for about a half an hour. And, these are good people, and they could have played anywhere. Yeah. And, it was a really good opportunity that we had there. And when you look at our records of the 4 years we were there, I think my freshman year we were 18-6. Sophomore year we were 13-10. 17-6 and 17-7, the 4 years I was there. But those losses were against Division I teams. Like we lost to St. Francis, we lost to Army, Loyola of Chicago. We beat Loyola, and we beat Mount St. Mary's, and those were all Division I schools. And we had a very strong team. I think we were ranked 11th in the country in my junior year and 13th in my senior year. So we were a force to reckon with back in the day. Different game nowadays. I only played in 20 games a year at 80 games. And, when I was inducted in the Hall of Fame, funny story. My daughter says, "Daddy," my stepdaughter, he called me Daddy because I've been with him since they're 5 years old. And, "Daddy, Tyler Hansbrough has 2,250 points and leads the NCAA. You only have 1,303. That's not all that much." I said, Al, let's think about that a minute. Tyler Hansbrough plays 35 games a year. Even let's say 30. 30 times 4 is 120. I played 80. Let's take half my 1,303 points and add it to that. That's 650 roughly. That's 1,900. And I didn't have a three-pointer. Let's add another 300. Guess what? I'm right there with him. And she said, "Oh, wow." And at the reception of the Hall of Fame banquet, I used that example in my speech, and everybody just went crazy because you can't compare eras. You really can't. And you can't compare the experience, but you can't compare the eras. That's for sure.
It's a completely different, and that's where I kind of don't like that. You tend to get into any sport kind of conversation is what's LeBron's game compared to Jordan, or what's A-Rod versus Barry Bonds versus back to some of the early baseball players. What would Earnhardt do in NASCAR today? It's like different time, different equipment, different roles, different everything. You can't. But that experience and the ingrained talent is there.
That's right.
Taking the technology side of it. When we're talking 1974, technology 1974, technology now.
Well, yeah. What's this interview like in 1974?
I mean, what was your? Exactly. I mean, Rich, when you go back to a 74, your regimen. You played. I mean, what did you get? Wrapped? Maybe an ice bath? I mean, you didn't have. I mean, diet was different. I mean, it wasn't like nowadays where everything's a machine, everything's a company, everything's precisely down to the. the performance end of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting you say it, David. We have a thing called Lunch with Leaders here at our company.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to have 2 lunches a quarter where people sign up, maximum 35 people. And it's usually the young guys that sign up that want to hear the experiences. In fact, I'm talking this Thursday here in the auditorium to a bunch of the younger
Just
generation.
playing this
employees.
show. You don't have to go. Just playing the podcast. They'll be out by then.
Yeah, and it's funny because one of the questions I had last meeting, which was last quarter, a young man says, "Mr. Ragan," he said, why did we go to a 4-1, 4 days at work, meaning 1 day work from home? And I said, 4-1. I said, what were you thinking? He said, 3-2 would have been a lot better. I said, really? You're asking the wrong guy, because if it was up to me, it would be 5-0.
Yeah.
And he said, that's the problem with, he didn't say you old guys. He said, that's the problem with you senior executives, because you got to be receptive to change. And boy, I just started change. Let me tell you about change. Gee, if I wanted to talk to my girlfriend in high school, I'd have grabbed the long extension cord off of the wall of the phone,
Right,
and hide in the broom closet so nobody else could hear me. I said, if I was coming out of basketball practice at 5:00, my mom said, I'll meet you on the corner. I better be there or she'll leave me.
yeah,
And I said, when I went to college, I learned how to do calculations on a slide rule. I said, you know what a slide rule is? He just said, no, sir. I said, I'll bring one in tomorrow and show you what a slide rule, how to use it. And I said, calculators didn't come out until my sophomore year, which
Yeah.
was the Texas Instrument. David, you
Yeah.
remember,
Yeah.
add, subtract, multiply, and divide, right?
Yep.
That was it.
Yep.
And if you
And then-
turned it upside down, you could spell some bad words with it if
Yeah.
you knew the right combination. Yeah.
Exactly. So I said, what change did you guys go through in your career? iPhone 1 through iPhone 12? And boy, you could have heard a pin drop,
But let's go back to the mid 70s. And I was just talking to an alum over the weekend, and they said, it's funny because you get that same thing. They're like, well, I'm kind of old. And you're like, well, really, when did you graduate? They're like, 1999. I'm like, I got you by about 10 years.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because, I look at the time frame span of this campus, of this university, and you were here, 1 year after it became a 4-year university? Times were different. And I said, I came in the 80s when it was only a 10-year, we were here for 10 years. Now we're looking back at 50 years since on this campus, 100 years since the establishment down in Johnstown. I guess my question is, back in 74, when you talked about your opportunities, but a coach comes in and says, I want you to go to this place called University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown. It's a 1-year-old place. I mean, the difference of then and now. I mean, take us back to that, looking at other colleges, looking at here, looking at those comparisons. You kind of told us why you picked here, but you had to be taking a chance.
It was a big chance, especially when he opened the door and showed me where I was going to be playing compared to other places. Okay, because you remember it was underneath the tuck shop.
It's the Cambria room now. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, and what it really had to do with was, where was I going to get an education? Number one, a good education, and how comfortable I was with the coach and the staff and the people that I met there, because there's a lot that you don't feel comfortable. That just check the box kind of interviews, or when you have a campus visit, check the box. Here's a scholarship. Come play for us. But it wasn't that in depth. I really care about you. I really care about you coming here, and we'll take care of you. And that's what I really felt when I was recruited there. And my story is somewhat why am I so beholding to the university is an interesting story. I've told at the Hall of Fame banquet, David. Maybe you were there when I spoke.
It was one of the reasons why we said we had to get you on the podcast, was that story.
Okay.
Honestly.
Okay. And I graduated with an engineering degree, civil engineering degree, and I wasn't going to work in being an engineer. What I wanted to do was coach and play ball. I was playing in the NBA Development League, and I was my friend came to watch me play down in Nashville, and we were playing a game at Vanderbilt Coliseum there, and I had 52 points in that game against NBA players, and I was on my way, because Hugh B. Brown was there, and says, Rich, he was a friend of Coach Campbell's, and Coach Campbell got me that opportunity. Even after he left after my freshman year, we had a different coach. I still stayed in touch with him, and I was playing. I was feeling really good, and when we were going home, we stopped and had a few few beers. You know, we weren't intoxicated or anything like that. Really, we weren't. But it was 1:30 in the morning, and we were going over an overpass on I-24. It was on Little Duck River, it's what it's called, and there was a van upside down in the median with its lights on and people walking around the van. And I said to my buddy, we were in a big 78 Thunderbird, and I said, John, slow down. They might need some help. As soon as he put his foot on the brake, we went to overpass. Our car slid sideways, flipped twice, and my door T-boned the back of the van. So I don't know how long I was knocked unconscious, but I remember John saying, Rich, you okay? I said, yeah, my head hurts. My back hurts like crazy. And I said, how are you? And he says, on my calf. And he had his calf almost completely severed off. It was bleeding really bad. And he said, let's get out of here. And we tried to get out of the car, and the doors were jammed shut from the rolling. But the moonroof was cracked, big 78 Thunderbird. I said, John, you go first. So he was on the hood of the car, and I was shimmying myself out of the moonroof when I heard everybody yell, look out, here comes another one. Now, I remember turning my head and seeing two headlights come hit the car and threw me 65 feet through the air into the median. And the last thing I remember was laying there, and a state policeman coming over and feeling my neck to see if I was still alive. And opened my eyes and startled him. He said, lay still, son. The ambulance is coming. I said, ambulance, hell, I'm going home. I'm cold. And that was my exact words, like it was yesterday. And I couldn't move. I was paralyzed from my waist down because I broke 2 vertebrae in my back, and it swelled up against the spinal column, dislocated both shoulders. I couldn't move, and fractured my skull and burst my eardrum. I can't hear in my right ear. So afterwards, it took me 2 months laying on my back in Vanderbilt Medical Center in Nashville there, and came back, and I didn't touch a ball from March 25th of 79 until September of 1980. I tried to get back in and play a little bit, and I just couldn't do it because of the time off and being out of shape, and still had some pains in my back. But I can remember my neurosurgeon was Dr. Vern Allen at the Vanderbilt Medical Center, checked on me every day, for 2 months. And afterwards, I went back for a checkup. He says, how you doing? I says, I'm not doing worth a darn. I said, I can't watch a game on TV. I can't go to watch a basketball game or clap and applaud for anybody. I said, it's all been taken away from me. He said, Rich, you ought to go and talk to my twin brother, Dr. Von Allen. He's a sports psychologist at Vanderbilt University. And I said, all right, I'll go. So a couple of weeks later, I make an appointment, go to talk to him. And I talked for 2 hours. And at the end, he said, okay, I'll see you in a couple of weeks. I said, wait a minute, you didn't tell me a blessed thing. He said, tell me everything you know from the time you were born to the time of the accident. And he said, I'll do all the talking next meeting. So when I went back, it was a profound thing that he said to me was, Rich, he said, your life is like a book. And you completed the first 10 chapters of a 20-chapter book. He said, and what you've done in those first 10 chapters is phenomenal. He says, but talking to my brother, he said, your basketball days are over. And that was like, boom, hit me square in the face. And I said, really? And I said, I don't feel that way. He says, no. He says, you got to think about putting all your energy, all your passion that you put into the game, your time management, your work ethics, your skill sets. You're an engineer. He said, go be the best darn engineer you can possibly be and make something happen with your life. And I walked out. That's the last time I saw him. And I came back and I said, he's right. What am I going to do? So I went and got my master's degree from University of Tennessee. I went and got my professional engineer's license, first time I passed it, and, put all that energy into being an engineer or being a leader. And that's where I am today. And I lead a group of, for American Axle, globally. I don't know how many thousands of people, but I run 5 groups. I'm responsible for global facilities, global real estate, global safety program, power and energy, and I think I said real estate, but security. And I have all those directors that run those groups for me, and then I just, like a puppet master and be a lead. And prior to coming here, I was CEO of 4 different tier supplier companies here in the automotive industry in Detroit. So I left there and I was retired, and the chairman's a good friend of mine here, and he talked me into coming out of retirement. I promised him 3 years, and 12 years later, I'm still here.
Still there.
Go figure, right? But the reason I tell that story, Matt and David, you've heard this before, is, without my education, without the skill sets that I learned at UPJ, even from coaching and playing basketball, I can tell you stories that really molded me as a human being, and I use it in the workforce every single day. And without that, who would I be? So I'm very grateful to the university and the people there for giving me the opportunity to succeed.
The you talked briefly at the beginning about looking at engineering programs,
Mhm.
and you said your dad was an engineer. Any
Correct.
other like was that you knew I wanted to do engineering? I loved it, or or is there tempting? Did you sit in a gen ed class and be like, man, you know what? Physics sounds good, or poli sci sounds fun, or is it just nope? I'm glad to be an engineer, and
You know what? It was one of these things. Dad, what should I major in? I said, you're an engineer. I'll just put engineering down.
But I think part of that also is, you've got, I mean, it's obvious, Rich, you weren't a bad ball player. I mean, you you were a very good ball player.
yeah,
I find that often, is it not tempting to say, I could either study or I could do something that comes more natural, and that could be my future. I mean, you had said, your track was get out of college, follow the MBA path. I mean, there's something to be said for that.
what David's trying to very nicely say is, boy, engineering's hard considering you could have just done something like
Yeah, practice your
David
free
and I
throws.
did
Yeah.
and done something simpler.
Yeah. And you know what's funny with that, David? To your point, when I was a freshman, we had to maintain a 2.0 QPA every quality point average every single semester. First year in college there, first semester I was 3.2.
Oh, wow.
Okay. I said, oh, this is pretty easy. I go in to register my classes, and Coach Ferguson, out of his suit coat, remember those old computer cards?
The old punch
Yeah,
card
yeah,
system.
yeah,
Yep.
He pulls out an envelope, says, here, Rich, here's the classes you're taking. I open it up. It was bocce, bowling, modern dance. I'll never forget it. And 2 engineering courses. Okay. And another one. It was only 12 credits. And I said, 12 credits? I have to take 18 to keep up the program. He says, nope, you're going spring session. Not during season. You'll never make it. And son of a gun, my QPA the second semester was 2.02. And you know why I got that 2.02 is because I got A's in bocce, bowling, and modern dance. So, these guys knew what they were talking about, and kept me on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
So, it works out. But I was always good with numbers, and I always liked math. And my dad kept me interested in engineering because he worked for American British Division of U.S. Steel.
Okay.
And he was always building huge things, Mackinac Island Bridge, Renaissance Center here in Detroit, all the buildings in Pittsburgh, the New River Gorge Bridge in West Virginia. And it was all interesting to me. So that's why I went into engineering as well. My dad had a lot of influence there.
But you're right. It's an integration. It's keeping in your mind what's important. And I think you're right. I think, we're both graduates of this same institution. And I think there was always that sense that you were here to enjoy the university, whether it was sports, whether it was social, but you had small classes. It was nose to the grindstone. I mean, you walked out of here with a pile of work that you could say you could be proud of.
Right. No question about it. And the teachers there were phenomenal, in my opinion.
And
Dr. Parker, I'll never forget him.
Thank you.
And Dr. Martinezzi in mechanical, because I had to take some mechanical courses. Those guys, Dr. Parker especially, was just totally fixated to make sure I understood. When I had questions, I had no problem going into his office and saying, help me with this, would you? And it was a really great experience, in my opinion.
It's kind of neat story, and the fun thing about doing this show for now over almost coming up on almost 100 episodes is it's a story we've heard kind of over and over again from, especially on the athletic side.
Mm-hmm.
It was not just I think there's a lot of places that potentially get a bad rap, and there's probably some places that actually have this justifiably deserved.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, go take nothing.
Right.
Don't show up for class. You leave here, you're ready. You're trained. You're connected. You know what you need to know. And
yes, that's right, Matt. And you know what? It's funny because I was so well prepared for the work industry compared to my peers, and I can see that.
Yeah.
When I would sit down and there's a problem given to me because it was engineering technology, when I was there, it was more application rather than theoretical. And the application is what you really experience in the true world. And it was a breeze going through my master's degree. I took half MBA and half engineering management because I wanted to be a leader of an engineering company, which I ended up doing twice, in Middo Engineering in Cleveland and Giffords Associates here in Detroit as their CEO. But the thing about it was you were able to take that real-time application and apply it really quickly in the field. And that was when I look and over and see what other folks were doing, I was ahead of them.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that makes you feel good because of the competitive nature of me. I
Yeah.
gotta win at everything. Even I can't let my grandkids win in checkers. No way.
I think this is why I enjoyed emailing with you and I enjoy talking to you, Rich. Is I have that. I have no athletic ability whatsoever. The last time David and I went golfing, I got hit with a golf ball. But
it would have been more times if my aim was better.
Yeah. And David spends more time in the woods just wandering around aimlessly. But that competitive nature of it is like, we got to win. We have the soil judging team in the department here, and I'm like, go win. And they're like, well, no, it's a good education. I don't care. Go win. It's that it never stops. And I can understand why that master's degree then kind of was well positioned for you as well, to accomplish that kind of that goal as well. You've certainly been around campus off and on throughout the time since you've graduated. What have you thought of the changes, the expansion, the new things?
Well, the nursing center is new. The performing arts center is new. There's a lot of new buildings. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of new buildings. But we had the lodges there. We had I stayed in Briar Lodge. We had the field house. The wellness center is new from when I was gone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All the things that we've done are really good. And Dr. Spector's done a great job. I mean, I keep in touch with him a lot. He calls me at least once every 6 months to see how I'm doing and talking to me about what he has planned. And, I'll do what I can to help the university. And it was a real honor when we had the basketball court named after me and that was something that I was able to give back to the university. It was great.
I wanted to kind of talk about that for a little bit for people, because people who may be listening, like, boy, I think I know that name.
Yeah, where have I seen it?
You probably have seen it if you've come to any of our athletic events.
All right.
So what was that kind of like to come back and be like, oh my goodness, this is now, I'm kind of now permanently part of the institution.
Yeah, that was a very special night for me, very emotional for me, because not only for me but for my family that was there with me, that they can share in that. It was very satisfying to me, to be honest with you. It's nice to be able to give back. It feels a whole lot better than taking.
Mm-hmm.
And my attitude towards that night was just one of just phenomenal, uplifting, positive feeling in your gut. And then it was really special for me. And Dr. Spector made it special, of course. And Pat Pecora, God rest his soul, he was a good friend of mine. In fact, I always tell a story. You really want to know Pat? He took the job when I was my junior year there, and Pat was only 22 and I was 21. So I can tell you a lot of good party stories that we had together. but the floor, Matt and David, it was something that you give back to the university and you feel good about it. And, the biggest disappointment that I've gotten, and my kids have tried, is I wish I had game films of when I played. And we had made a format that we taped over, and nobody kept them. And, it'd been great to sit down with my grandsons, who one plays basketball and one's a swimmer, and say, here's what Grandpa did, or with my kids, it'd be great. But, it's not there. And so they have the stories.
But you know what, though, Rich? There is that chance, and I want to just talk once a little bit more about the giving back part, but there is that chance that, with the internet, we talk about technology.
Yeah, it could be.
Interestingly enough, I was looking for a Friday fun fact at one point and stumbled upon a recording of Lou Reed playing at Pitt Johnstown in 77, in what was now the cafeteria. That was just archived somewhere on somebody, somebody downloaded it. So who knows? Maybe there's some Rich Ragan films out there that may.
I wonder
surface.
if JAC has any.
I wonder.
My kids even called a couple of the universities that I played against, like up in Buffalo.
Oh, sure.
That was one of my favorite games up there in Buffalo, but they don't have any. So
you never know. Let me get back to, the importance of giving back. I mean, we just came off of a very successful Pitt Day giving. And it's interesting because I'm going to kind of do the pitch, to use a sports term. And, the importance of that, this university had done, obviously to where you are today, whether it was sports, you could be retired NBA right now had things not turned on that one night. But, this was one of these things where we've even focused this year on new donors this year. We were challenged to find 100 new donors, and we found 180, or 180 found us. And there's that same feeling that it's that giving back. It's whether it's $10, whether it's $5,000, whether it's $1 million. Just the importance. If you could just touch just a little bit on just the importance. I mean, I don't know that people understand just what that means to a university coming from the giving side. I know you spoke a little bit about the feeling it gives you, but just the importance that you felt it meant.
Yeah, well, the nicest thing, because I always make it to the men's basketball program, and once every 4 years, Coach Rucavina and I said, look, have an experience for the players so that somebody's there for 4 years. One out of those 4 years, they're able to go somewhere. Go play in Hawaii. Go play in Puerto Rico. Go play wherever. And Bob has done that, and I support that. And I fund, continue to fund into the men's basketball program so that these kids can experience that, because it's important that they have an experience that other kids may not necessarily have going to a different university. So giving back is important, because not only are helping, but you're molding the future for some individuals. I don't know who they are, but you feel pretty good about it, And that's something that everybody should consider. Like you said, if it's $5, $10, $100, $1,000, whatever it may be, it helps.
Couldn't have said it better myself. When you retire, if you need a job in development, Rich, maybe
we got a spot
could help you out here.
Well, Rich, I want to thank you for taking over a half hour with us and talking a little bit. Hopefully, next time you're on campus, we can sit down again and do
take it to the tuck
chat.
Yeah,
you got a tuck dog with your name on it there. So
there you go. I was just there a couple of weeks ago when we played Indiana. I always try to make it back.
Okay.
We have plants over in Ridgeway and St. Mary's and Emporium, and I always make operations reviews there around the schedule of the team, so I can see a couple of things. Yeah. So I will definitely stop in next time and say hello. And David, of course, I know where you are.
We'll get you a tuck dog with bacon and cheese.
There you go.
Love it. Rich, thank you again for everything you do for us and taking time and being on the show here. We really do appreciate it.
That's my pleasure. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you very much.
And for everyone out listening, as always, our contact information is down in the description of the podcast. If you have a question for me or David, or have an idea for a show, shoot us an email.
Absolutely.
Until next week, then, we will hope you have a great one, and talk to you next Wednesday. The Tuck Shop podcast is recorded live on the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown campus. Update your contact information with us by visiting johnstown.pitt.edu/alumni. Connect with us online via Facebook and LinkedIn, or consider donating to the university at giveto.pitt.edu/giveupj.
This has been a production of Quantum Wave Media. Views expressed do not necessarily reflect the opinion of the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown.